Let me welcome everybody. This is the Town of Blowing Rock Planning Board meeting for January 21st via Zoom. And I'll do a call to order. Before we move to approval of the agenda, we have 27 people signed up tonight to talk on this project. So I would like to make introductions because I think there's some people that maybe don't know who we are. So I am Pete Guarini. I'm chairman of the board. Mike Page is here. Pete Pace is here. Joe Papp is here. Sam Glover's here. Harrison Hurst is here. Wes Carter's here, and Bill McCarter. So having identified all the members of the board, I will ask for approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Mike Page, so moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. Do I have approval of that?
Who seconded that, Pete?
Yeah.
Bill McCarter.
Bill McCarter. I've asked for a vote. All those signify by aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
approved. I'll now move for approval of the minutes. Has everybody read the minutes? Are there any notations or changes?
Peter, I have one question on page 4. The fourth from the last paragraph about Bill McCarter looking at 160D. It appears that he is revising 160D. Is that really, should that read he's revising the land use code to conform to 160D?
That's right.
Yes. Sorry, Bill.
We're not in any hurry though. So.
No, but as far as the minutes are concerned, it might just clarify that one point on that paragraph, please.
Good suggestion.
Other than that, I move approval of the minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second. It's Pete.
Pete Pace does the second. Move for approval. Is there all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, the minutes have been approved. Move on to new business, and this is gonna take some time and effort here. So let's start by having Kevin go through and explain the project. And then after Kevin gives us his explanations, we'll have the applicant, John Winkler, make a presentation. And then after that, we'll begin to go through and hear from the speakers. When we get to that point, Kevin and I will make some comments about how that's going to work. And so for right now, Kevin, if you'd start off with your overview.
Okay, Pete. Let me try to share the screen just a minute. In here. Okay. I'm gonna read the staff report and I'm gonna keep, if everyone can see that. Pete, can you see that all right?
Yes, I can.
Okay, that just shows the site plan. The condition, this is conditional use permit 2020-02. Green Hill Subdivision. John Winkler is requesting a conditional use permit for an 8-lot single-family subdivision in a new street. The 4.715 acre subject property fronts Green Hill Road and Highway 321 and was formerly part of the old number 6 hole at Blowing Rock Golf Course. Property is zoned R15 single family. The property is not in a water supply watershed, and the property is in both Watauga County and Caldwell County. We've got some background noise. Make sure everybody can be muted. The subject property is mainly a field and was the old number 6 hole, as I explained earlier. The larger extent of the subject property is 6 lots that is still owned by the Bernhardt Country Club. The applicant plans to recombine the current 6 lots into 5 lots, with the largest of those being 4.7 acres, and that's where the proposed subdivision will be, and also the proposed street. The remaining 4 lots will front Green Hill Road, with 3 of those relatively unchanged from their current configuration, which are above the property, north on Green Hill Road. Each lot meets the minimum size requirement of 15,000 square feet and the minimum lot width of 100 feet. Lot number 8 fronts 321. However, access will be through a driveway to the new street.
Yes.
Hold on just a minute. Let me see what we got going on here. I've got to get everyone that's on that is not a board member. If you will mute, I'm going to go ahead and mute you. If not, I've got some background noise happening.
Agree.
I've still got
Kevin, I think it's Pete.
Okay. Well, and you guys, unless you're speaking, y'all can go ahead and mute my board members. If you're not speaking at this time, y'all can go ahead and mute unless you have a question. Okay. Let me go back to screen share and show you that site plan again. Okay. There we go. As far as the street design, the proposed road access will connect to Green Hill Road just north of the intersection of Terry Acre Circle. The road connection is situated at the apex of a curve that provides the most sight distance for both directions on Green Hill Road. You can see, if you're looking north up Green Hill, you can see up to the next curve at Hemlock. And if you're looking down, you can just about see down to the sharp hairpin curve at the bottom of the hill. The new road, as shown, has a total length of just over 400 feet to the center of the cul-de-sac. The road will be built to town standards with a maximum grade of 15%, 18 feet of pavement, and 24-inch curb and gutter. 24-inch curb and gutter leaves 18-inch of gutter. So from face of curb to face of curb, the road would be 21 feet wide. The applicant intends to offer the road for public dedication upon completion, and the town will be responsible then for street maintenance and snow removal. I think there were some questions I received through multiple emails about the responsibility and who's paying for it. The developer pays for the cost of the road. All development is on the developer. They have to pay for all that. So they shoulder that entire burden. So stormwater, grading, all of it. So hopefully that will answer that question that's been asked. As far as stormwater management, in Blowing Rock, stormwater detention is required for the proposed road, the curb and gutter and all of that. They have to collect that in a drainage system that would be designed to accept that runoff and convey it through a detention system. We go to this grading plan here shows that detention system down into the cul-de-sac at a series of pipes and then released down to that drainage easement down the DOT drainage easement down at the bottom of the hill. Those black lines, those dark black lines on the site plan shown there is some of the riprap and armoring, the creek bank armoring that DOT installed when they did the road widening. As shown on the preliminary plan, it appears that the stormwater drainage design will meet the land use standards. All the calculations are not necessarily complete, but the applicant, the engineer, has provided some of the specifics on that design and some of those calculations already to this point. There's street trees that are required to be planted or retained an average of every 30 feet on each side of the street. So that plan was also in your packet. Water and sewer utilities, a 6-inch water line with two hydrants along the new street is proposed. There'll also be an additional hydrant located on the south corner of Green Hill in the proposed street. So at the top of the hill, just as you're going up the hill, just as you leave, there'll be a hydrant proposed there as well, by request of the Public Works and Fire Department. The proposed sewer will be a low pressure sewer system and will connect to the gravity sewer main in Green Hill Road. Staff and the town engineer will approve the water and sewer systems to meet the town code, and that has to go through the state for approval prior to being finalized for the plans. Another addition that staff comment is that we recommend a 20-foot rear and side setback and undisturbed buffer along the perimeters of lots 5, 6, and 8, where the subdivision backs up to the existing homes over on the west side of the subject property. The current setback is 12 feet. We're recommending not only just a 20-foot setback, but also for that to remain undisturbed. Provided all these plans in your packet. They were available on the website as well. And that's really all I have to explain the property. I do have another plan that I want to show. Everybody see that? That's the existing subdivision as it is today, approved in, I think, 2003. So that shows the 6 lots, 5 along Green Hill, and then the rest of it at the bottom of the hill along 321. So the process is that the applicant plans to recombine these 6 lots into 5 lots, as I mentioned earlier, and that can be done administratively. That's done all the time, recombination plats. But what they're doing, the reason they're required to have a conditional use permit is that a portion of lot 1 that you see there and all of lot 2 and all of lot 6 is what's being proposed with the new street into 8 single family lots. So I want to give that brief explanation of what it is today and what the applicant desires to do. That's all I have at this point. Anyone can hear what we're doing. If you will still mute until it's time for the public to speak, it'll help us a little bit in the background noises. We got a lot of people that are on this call.
Whoever called in on the phone, 9230, 414-9230.
Who did?
Whoever's on the phone, 414-9230 can mute.
Pete, would y'all have any questions for me now? Let me get out of the screen share.
Kevin, before we get the board members to ask questions, could you put the aerial view up, please?
Yes. I think it was at the bottom of the plan package.
Yeah, that one there.
Is that okay?
Can everybody see that? Okay, so for the board members, are there questions of Kevin moving forward? If there are no questions, then we'll move to have Mr. Winkler and his team make their presentation.
So Jason and John, y'all can go ahead and unmute, and I can share this screen over to you, Jason, if you'd like, or I can just keep it right here and go to any page that you want.
Okay, well, whatever John wants to do is fine. I'm really here to answer questions, and I've got the plans pulled up as well. So I guess for now, if we just want to roll this aerial photo and John can talk, and if there are any technical questions, I'll be happy to jump in.
Okay.
Yes, sir. This is John. I think for time's benefit, I'd rather just wait for questions. I could talk on and on and on, but I'd rather have specific questions asked, and hopefully we can answer them to your satisfaction. Everyone hear that?
Yes, sir.
We did.
Okay. I just think the plan's fairly self-explanatory, and golly, I have no idea what questions you might have.
John, this is Pete Guarini. I was looking on the Site 1 plan. There was in the notations on the left-hand side, there was a comment that said high-intensity lighting facility shall be arranged that the source of any light is concealed from the public view and does not interfere with traffic. I think I know what that means, but could you just amplify on that, please?
I can't, but Jason Gaston may be able to. That's why I hire him to do these things, and he may be able to answer that much. We want to do what's required, but I couldn't speak to it intelligently at all.
Sure. If you review the tree plan, that's where you'll see the locations of the lights, the street lights for the town of Blowing Rock. You'll see those intermingled there. They should have been called out, I believe, on the tree plan. Yeah, there they are. You can see that's a typical. So basically, that's just saying that the lights are the town of Blowing Rock lights. They're staggered approximately 200 feet. And it's just up to the installer to make sure that we don't breach any of the town codes, which again, these are your standard lights that are already meeting your lighting requirements. So
I'll fill in on that, Pete, and any board members. We're moving towards the LED full cutoff light that's on 321. That's going to be the light that's being used as they replace them, Blue Ridge Electric. They're more of a down light, and there's not the need to provide house side shields on those. And in this case, they're going to be lighting the street anyway. They're really not what you would call a street light. They're more of a pedestrian or decorative light, but it does serve the purpose, and it's a better light than the sodium halide or whatever it is that we have now, the yellowish light that we have. So we would recommend that they start implementing those on projects townwide. They just serve a little bit better.
Okay. Kevin, I had a question on the buffer. Can you show on the map how or where those buffers are going to be?
Well, right there, I'll just use this plan for example. You see lot 8 and then 5 and 6. 8 is over on the left-hand side. And so this is backing up to Oval Jane's and Roger McGuire's, and also Susan Little's as well. So where it shows a 12-foot setback, we're recommending a 20-foot buffer along that boundary.
Okay. Anybody else on the board want to ask questions or make comments?
Kevin, I had on lot 8. Maybe I just couldn't quite figure it out, but how do you access lot 8?
Lot 8 will have a driveway easement between lot 6 and 7. You see that line that goes across? It would be a good idea to share a driveway either with lot 6 or 7 at that point, instead of having multiple cuts out to that street. And I think it makes sense. I mean, lot 6 or 7, either way, probably a shared driveway with lot 7 would make more sense, as you would probably come in on the upper side of lot 7 to put a house. Lot 6, you're probably, again, going to come up on the upper side. So a shared drive between 7 and 8 would probably be reasonable, but they can work that out through the details of the subdivision plat.
On the access to 321, normally you'd put like a non-access easement, but there's probably not required in this case because DOT wouldn't issue a permit anyway for a driveway, wouldn't it?
Probably. Being that single family, it's possible, but it's not reasonable to try to build. You'd have to build a bridge over that ravine there, or, and that's a drainage easement. I don't think that they would. It meets the criteria for having frontage on a public street, but it would be unwise to build out to 321 on any of those lots.
Yeah, agreed.
Kevin, it's Mike Page.
Hey, Mike.
Question on the traffic study that you sent. Could you talk to that a bit? It looked like it talked about an increase in AM and PM traffic pressure on Green Hill Road.
Yes, sir. I think I've got it here. That was provided by the applicant. Jason may be able to speak to a little bit more, but here it is. A trip generation, recognizing the number of lots for the overall property, and that's what that trip generation is for, to typical subdivision, and how many daily trips you would have. Jason, can you speak to it a little bit better than me?
Sure. So what you see there with that peak hour is exactly that. It's kind of like sizing pipes. You want to size them for peak flow during rain events. So it's the same when you're looking at trips. And what you see here is that during a peak hour, the AM and PM peak, you're going to have an additional 13 trips per hour in those high end times. So that's, what is that, roughly one extra trip every 4.5 minutes during the AM peak and the PM peak, usually between 8 and 9 a.m. and then 4 to 5 p.m. Mm-hmm. So you're looking at 13 additional trips during just those peak hours. The rest of the time, it's about half of that, around 6 or 7 trips. Because, I mean, you think about when people leave to go home or they're going to work, they're gone most of the day. So after your peak hour traffic, people have exited their residence to go to work, then the majority of the rest of the day, your average daily traffic is much lower. So you just look at the peaks, and in this case, you're talking about one extra trip every 4.5 minutes only in the peak hours.
Jason, this is the build out?
Correct. That's
full build out.
That's all 12 lots.
Do I understand that that study has to do with both the development and the 3 lots along Green Hill Road that are not the subject of the conditional use permit request?
Correct. It's all 12 lots. The subdivision request is only for 8, but there's a total of 12. So that traffic study includes all 12.
So for purposes of the decision that we're asked to make, or the recommendation one way or the other, the pressure that might be put on by the 3 lots that are outside of the request is really not a part of what we're considering this evening.
Correct. And again, it's pretty simple math. You figure a family leaves in the morning, it's 12 lots, 13 trips. So you figure each of those residents is going to generate 1 peak hour trip per day. So if you've got 8 lots instead, you can kind of guess it's probably 8 to 9 trips per hour in the peak hour. But just to be conservative, so you can see the total impact, we wanted to go ahead and include the other 3 lots so that we're showing everybody we've already considered those as well.
Thank you.
Other questions? I had a question, John, this is Pete.
Yes, sir.
To get approval from the council, do I understand correctly that basically you do all the infrastructure and everything and then sell off the lots?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Pete,
We may have to, it depends on how they go, but I may have to build a spec house or two. And I'll but we're not sure. That's all up in the air. Hopefully we can just sell out the lots and then we'll have restrictions that people have to build by. And they have to use certain materials, certain height restrictions, certain first floor sizes. It'll be pretty heavily restricted.
Is there going to be a homeowners association?
Yes, sir. I think you're required to have them.
we do. For a major subdivision, we do. Pete, one more thing about process. Let's say this project does get approved. Let's assume it does, for purpose of discussion. They have to build all the infrastructure and then record the plat, the final plat. They can't sell lots until everything is built. And we don't sign off on the plat until everything is built and then inspected and everything's in the ground. And then they record a final plat. And at that time, they can sell lots.
Okay. Any other questions or comments before we move on to open it up for the public to speak?
Are the CCRs already recorded?
What's that, Harrison?
Are the CCRs already recorded?
What's that?
The covenants and restrictions?
No, they don't own the property yet. I believe one of the requirements is that the final plat has language that says this property is subject to the terms and conditions of the conditional use permit, and that runs with the land that is subject to the subdivision. And so that becomes part of the covenants as well, the deed restrictions. We don't enforce private deed restrictions as a local government, but we do enforce anything that's in the conditional use permit. So their covenants may be more restrictive than the conditional use.
Okay, Kevin, shall we at this time move to open it up for public comment? And before we do that, I have talked to Kevin extensively about standing and everything else. So Kevin, if you want to make your comment, and then I'll make my comments to the people that are going to speak.
Yes, I was just going to say, I sent this to those within 150 feet. Tammy helps generate that map and the list. And those folks around within 150 feet generally have standing as we move through the quasi-judicial process. But, the planning board does not have to follow those strict rules. Traditionally, we've always allowed people to speak on a subject like this, but under restrictions, not go on forever, and also to not repeat the same stuff that's been said. If someone has said something, don't need to reiterate it again. And so as I sent this notice, I also received input back from people wanting to speak. And so we generated a list of folks that emailed me before today at 1 o'clock. We have to have a cutoff point. And then, so we sent them the Zoom link, and most of those people are on tonight. So we're going to allow you to have that opportunity to speak. We did receive a couple letters back that did not reach their destination. And we contacted them and gave them a copy of the Zoom link and the plans and the notice as well. We will also follow up. If this moves forward to council, we'll follow up again with adjusted addresses as needed, if we found addresses, and we'll send the public notice that's required by the ordinance for council. That's a little bit different process, and sworn testimony is required at that point. But tonight, I think Pete and the board, I think they were going to look at allowing 3 minutes. And I gave Pete a list of those that I received. I did receive just a email a minute ago from Caroline Howe. She'd like to speak first if possible, because she's got to put a little one to bed. So I think we'd probably honor that. And if you all want to start with Ms. Howe, that would be fine.
Yeah, and before we start the process, let me just amplify what Kevin has said. The speakers will have up to 3 minutes, and I would like to have somebody on the board act as a timer, so that we just don't get run away with people talking. So can I get somebody to act as a timer? And each speaker will have 3 minutes. And as Kevin said, if by the time we reach down to number 10, or we've had half the people speak, if you've heard somebody before talk about and make a comment, and it's something that you were going to talk about, what we'd appreciate is that you still give us your name, your address, and just say that your particular item was covered before, and that would help us facilitate time-wise. So before we start, can I get somebody to do the timing?
I can do it.
Okay, Harrison, thank you so much. And if you could, I don't know, when 3 minutes is up, just wave your hand, and at that time we'll suggest that the applicant, or not the applicant, the speaker, his time is up. So in honoring the request from Caroline Howe, we'll start with her. So Caroline, if you'd state your name and your address, you can have your 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Caroline Howe. My parents live at 239 Gideon Ridge Road. I was born and raised in Blowing Rock. I attended Blowing Rock Elementary, and my husband and I were married at St. Mary's of the Hills Episcopal Church. My parents are Richard and Betty Howe and have owned a home on Gideon Ridge for 40 years near this property. They've also been members of the club and Blowing Rock Rotary for 30 years. The Blowing Rock community is incredibly important to my family, which is why I wanted to attend this Zoom tonight. I'm concerned about the proposed new development's impact. Hold on. Why is it formatting like this? I'm concerned about the proposed new development's impact on traffic and safety, the environment, and optics. And I'd also like to mention one other thing. This hearing is in the dead of winter, which for a seasonal town means that many, many seasonal residents who own property here and who contribute significantly to the community's economy are likely not aware of it taking place. I've always admired and drawn comfort from the fact that the Blowing Rock community is so community oriented, and the timing of this meeting does seem to fly in the face of community inclusivity. Building 12 homes on a tiny lot above the Welcome to Blowing Rock sign on 321 seems like a community issue and not just a neighborhood issue. The first issue I'm concerned with, and I know many of my neighbors will expound on this much more, is the issue of traffic and safety. I'd love to know the thinking of this committee, what the thinking is around the excess traffic on Green Hill Road. My parents walk daily on Green Hill. This neighborhood is highly trafficked with foot traffic. And I'm really concerned about how dangerous it is for the neighbors. I know Pat Coley has had issues with cars wrecking into her wall. And I'd just like to understand the threshold. The second issue I'm concerned about is the beautiful green space I've known my whole life that abuts the Yadkin River. Has this committee contacted the Yadkin River Keepers Association? There's no way that 12 homes on less than 5 acres wouldn't wreck the environment. The last issue is optics. I'm concerned that this proposed development of 12 homes on a tiny piece of land would be built on one of Blowing Rock's last sacred green spaces, which is basically the face of the town when you enter Blowing Rock from 321. People escape crowded cities and towns and draw solace and comfort from our nature and natural beauty. And I'd really like to preserve that. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Caroline. Appreciate your comments. Okay, we'll go to the first person on the list, which was Sandy Burks Campbell. Ms. Campbell?
Yes, thank you, Kevin. Caroline stole a lot of my thunder. I too take my life in my hand when I try to walk up Green Hill Road, which I've been doing for 40 years. So it is a big concern. The traffic is a big concern. It's just too small a property to put that many homes on. It just is. It, like she said, it'd be the first thing people see when they come up that road. Houses, not green space. And we have so few, we need to protect them. Also, I saw where Mr. Winkler applied for a permit to develop a subdivision a year ago. That was in February of 2020. And it was a similar size area, if I'm not mistaken, and there were only 5 homes proposed. So perhaps we could scale this down. Why are there going to be 12 instead of 5? That's a question that I have. And like Caroline, I think we need to slow this process down. This is something that affects the community of Blowing Rock, not just the neighborhood. So I strongly feel that we need to slow this process down and find a way to enable everyone to participate in this, because it's so important. And in doing so, we could create a better outcome for all of the citizens of Blowing Rock, not just us. Thank you, Kevin. Or Pierre.
Hey, Sandy, thank you very much for your comments. Moving on to the next person is Ann Bernhardt. Ann, you're on.
No comments, thank you.
Sorry.
Okay. Next person in line is Alex Bernhardt.
I don't believe I'll ask it. No comment.
Okay. Moving down the list, Lee Harper. Lee, are you on?
Lee, she's muted.
Yes, I'm Lee Harper Vason.
There we go.
And I've grown and spent my whole life in Blowing Rock. My grandparents had the house on Old Hole number 6. It is a very special piece of property. And I'm going to let my husband talk about this because I'm going to get too emotional. Blowing Rock doesn't need any more development.
I'm Wayne Vason, and Lee and I are property owners in Blowing Rock. We own property at the Village, at Green Park, and on Gideon Ridge, the family home place there. Our concerns have been addressed by Sandy and Caroline in particular. Number one is the loss of green space at the entrance to Blowing Rock. On both sides of the road, what you have now is green space to the right, which is this property, and to the left, which is the green space or open space in front of Gideon Ridge, which is subject to restrictions. This property, if developed, would basically potentially eliminate the green space there. So our concerns are what steps can be taken to address the loss of that green space, and really along the lines of a buffer between 321 and the proposed development, and planting. The planting, and it may well be that the planting that exists currently, that's been done along 321, has been done by the Department of Transportation as part of the agreement with the town of Blowing Rock. I'm not familiar, but it's very attractive planting, and one would hope that it would come on down and include the stretch from the city limit sign up and connect, and the planting of trees along in that area. So I think addressing those steps would be important to create that buffer and a green space buffer consistent with what can be done if the development goes forward. We also share the concerns with the impact of traffic on Green Hill Road. We know also from walking and from driving, it is a dangerous road as is. And it would be, I think, relevant to know the current average daily traffic on Green Hill Road. As I understand, the latest information that Kevin provided us was, I believe, 2016. And so, it seems to me that this is too important a project not to have a current read on what is the current average daily traffic on Green Hill Road.
That's time.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin.
Okay, thank you. Moving down the list, Ernest Long. Mr. Long? Is Mr. Long on the call?
Kevin, you're muted.
He's muted?
Kevin is muted.
Oh. Kevin?
I don't think he is. I looked through the list.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think Mr. Long is on the call.
All right. Next person is Wayne Vanson.
He just spoke.
Online on the call.
He just spoke.
Oh, that's all right. Sorry. Betty Howe.
She is not speaking.
Okay.
All right. Tom Medlin.
I think Tom's on the call.
Yes, thank you. Hope everyone can hear me. My name's Tom Medlin. I live with my wife Donna at 163 Gideon Ridge Road. We purchased this house in November of 2019, and we live next door to Betty and Pete Howe as well, Richard Howe as well. My concerns are basically, what am I going to be looking at, because I'm across the street, across 321. So what will I be seeing as the development goes forward, and then traffic. And so I want to address those two things. But before I do, Kevin, I would ask a question about whether or not this conditional use permit will allow any kind of duplexes to be built, or are they going to be single residential buildings that could not allow duplexes? Is there anything in the definition that that might allow a duplex on a lot?
Tom, single family only.
Thank you. I thought so. I just wanted to confirm that for the record.
Yes,
The second, then, what we'll be looking at, I guess my question would go to the developer on this one, is that I know he's looking at maybe selling off lots, but in his restrictive covenants, he can put restrictions or requirements for a certain square footage on houses, things of that nature, to try to control a certain look or a certain value of house. And I would like to hear a little more about that if that's known at this time. So that would be one question that I would have for the developer. And then my other concern is really not so much about the traffic on Green Hill, because I don't walk over there, but I really am concerned about the additional traffic that's going to be added to Green Hill at the intersection of Green Hill and Rock Road and 321. Since we've been living here and since COVID, we've been living in Blowing Rock since March of 2020 forward. There have been numerous accidents at that intersection. And one just last week down at the bottom of the hill. And I'm really concerned about that. And I know that that's not something that this developer probably really has any control over, or this planning board, but I would just be asking for support going forward, because I intend to talk to the State Division of Highways about that intersection and putting up some warning lights and some flashing lights. And I would like for the planning board to be aware that we're going to be adding traffic coming down Green Hill at that intersection. And it's just time for something to be done there to protect everybody who's coming and going there. And I've got some ideas about that and would like, and Kevin, I can certainly talk to you about that going forward. And I'll share this with the town council as well. Thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to your answers.
All right, Kevin.
Pete, I can probably address one of those questions about that Tom asked about. Hold on. I messed up. About architectural, that would be there's nothing that the town can do related to 1 and 2 family design criteria. That's been stopped by the General Assembly several years back, where we don't have a say in the design. But if Mr. Winkler wants to do that as part of his development and self-impose some type of architectural standard, they can do that in the private deed restrictions, but it would not be something enforced by the town. I think that you asked something about another thing about the 321 intersection. Any dealings with that would be going through DOT. I know there was a lot of push when before the road was constructed, as the plans were being designed, on trying to get a light at that location. That did not happen. Originally, there was not a light at Main Street, but there is now. So maybe there's some traction that can be gained through DOT, but some of the offsets to that is, stopping vehicles as they're coming up, especially in bad weather, could be some issues there. But anyway, those are DOT issues, and I know if you're going to speak with them, Tom, that might be the way to go about it. But good questions. Thank you. Hope I answered.
Thank you, Tom. Ms. Sigmund?
Thank you. I'm Glenn Sigmund. We are owners of 267 Gideon Ridge Road. Got a question about the number of trips daily they calculated. Did anybody take into consideration the increased traffic from the Blowing Rock attraction that would be also coming into that intersection where Green Hill comes into 321? That's my first question. Second one, I looked at the plans, and where you're proposing to put the house at the lower end of that development, is there sufficient gravity drain potential to get that sewage away from those lots? Or are you going to have to build a lifting station? I know you said that the gravity flow was sufficient, but is it really? And failing that, if you get out of a gravity drain situation and you have to use a lifting station, then you're going to have to blast, and then you're getting into the Yadkin River headwaters area, and that's the next thing I've got a question on. Are we getting into the Yadkin River headwaters and getting into a problem with? I know you said there's no watershed business there, but I've still got questions about that. Now, this development is in the Green Hill Historical District, is it not, Kevin?
It is.
Okay. Is there not an architectural review process in the Historical District?
No, it's a national district. There's no requirement.
National
If
district.
it was a local district, it would, but it's a national district of Green Park, and there's no review. I mean, there's houses built all the time, well since that was established. There's no review requirement.
Okay. The only other thing I was asking about was I have gotten from the mayor that his intent was to preserve the character of the community, and I just wonder if we're running a skew of that. So that's what I had. Thank you.
All right, Glenn, thank you very much.
I think I might be able to answer one. Jason might have to chime in on the question about traffic generation. That was not taken in consideration, the intersection. It was how many trips are generated by the subdivision that would exit onto Green Hill Road. It had nothing to do with the intersection. The sewer, again, Jason could step in after I'm done here, but the sewer is going to be a low pressure pump system, and it will pump up to the top of the hill with gravity. But Jason could give specifics on how that would be designed, and if there would be any need for blasting. I can't imagine there would be.
There's a lot of rock down there, Kevin.
There's a lot of rock everywhere.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Jason, you got anything on the sewer?
I mean, you're exactly right. It's going to be a 2-inch force main that's only buried around 3 feet in the ground. So unless and if you look at the road, most of the road's in fill, so I don't see why there'd be any need for blasting. If we have to trench that, unless it's extremely hard refusal, we can probably use machines for that. But I've been doing work here for 11 years, and I've never done any kind of blasting on any site, including those that have refusal, especially for a small utility like a 2-inch force main.
2-inch force main, okay.
Glenn, the only blasting I've experienced in 20 years here is the 321 project and 2 other single family housing projects.
Yeah, I can speak to the blasting. I got rock dust all over my newly finished deck back then. It was great.
The 321?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't make a problem about it. But there was a lot of blasting.
All right, moving on. The next person is Dave Rogers. David? Dave, are you on?
Yeah, I didn't have any questions. I'm just reporting today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let you get back to reporting. Marshall Seeley.
I think Marshall was on.
I don't have any questions, Pete. Thanks for asking me.
Okay. Next person, Mary McLeod.
I feel like this time around we're coming sicker.
Yes, I appreciate the opportunity to speak. My brother and sister aren't on the Zoom call, so I'm here representing them too. I don't know whether any of you are aware, but my father died a couple of weeks ago, and his home is the historic Canon Grover Robbins home at 108 George Blagg Lane. I first went to that house when I was 6 years old, when my dad brought me to Blowing Rock to visit Grover and Pat Robbins. On a dark night from Dad's porch, you can see the lights of 3 towns. So one of my concerns is the light pollution that might be generated by this development. I'm also concerned about the height of the structures. I know over on the golf course, a very tall, skinny home was built. So, and I understand we live in a democracy, but I am concerned about the height. And I can testify to the heavy traffic at Green Hill. Now, this got a lot worse when the access to Goforth Road, the access to 321 was closed. And then when it became widely known that Green Hill was a shortcut up to the parkway during the road construction. So without a development of this size, there's already a traffic problem on Green Hill. And I just like for people to be aware of that before we have some sort of tragedy. And thank you for the opportunity to speak. I look forward to the answers.
Okay, Mary, and sorry about the loss of your father.
Ms. McLeod.
Thank you. Dad loved Blowing Rock so very much. Yes.
Okay, next online is Tim Gupton. Tim?
I'll yield my time. Thank you.
Okay, Tim, thank you for that. Edgar Miller.
Yes, hey Ken, thank you. I'm Edgar Miller. I'm the executive director of the Yadkin Riverkeeper. I had really not planned to speak, but I appreciate the opportunity to listen in and the concern about the potential impact of this project on the headwaters of the river. We are very fortunate in the Yadkin, unlike many rivers. Much of our headwater area is protected by federal and state land and recent conservation acquisitions below the Thunderhill Overlook that we hope will continue to spread throughout the headwaters area to make sure we have a good quality of water, outstanding resource waters coming into the river. I live in Lexington and was contacted by a Blowing Rock resident about this concern. And so just a couple of questions about the stormwater management plans. I know there's mention of detention, stormwater detention areas, not retention areas. And I was curious about just the stormwater plan for managing that runoff and the headwaters there coming out of the parking lot at the Green Park Inn. Certainly a bit of an urban legend that that is where the river starts in the parking lot. And of course it is right next to the divide and it is part of those headwaters. The main stem comes down more off of the Thunderhill Overlook. So we're just more interested in the potential impact here. The Blue Ridge Conservancy has identified some priority parcels near this area for conservation. And we certainly hope we can continue to work with them and groups like the Conservation Fund and the Conservation Trust to help protect those areas. And once again, I know this is right by the town, and just from a view shed standpoint, green space, certainly Blowing Rock has changed tremendously over the years, having gone up there since I was a little boy. And so, yeah, I think green space is a premium there now. And certainly we would want to make sure that whatever runoff from this development would be properly managed. I would note that this particular subbasin in our watershed is ranked 121 out of 127 above High Rock Lake. Everything ends up down here in Lexington at High Rock Lake. And that higher ranking means it is more pristine. And so when you get into the urban areas, most of our most stressed subbasins are in obviously the urbanized areas. So we really want to keep these headwaters as pristine as we possibly can. Thank you for the opportunity to provide some input.
Okay, thank you, Edgar. Appreciate your comments. Next up is Mark and Heidi Terry, please. Mark or Heidi, on the call? Kevin?
I don't, they are over here.
They're muted.
They're muted. I don't think I can unmute them. Mark or Heidi, if y'all want to speak, if you can unmute, now'd be the opportunity. Why don't we, maybe they're having trouble, maybe come back to them. Pete, I will be glad to go ahead and answer two questions from Ms. McLeod. If that's all right.
Okay, go ahead.
She asked about light pollution, and as far as what they're required to do as far as street lights, there would only be about 4 to 5 total street lights throughout the neighborhood, and we're going back to that full cutoff light. There could be 6 lights, but they're spaced out accordingly. And then the building height, they're limited to 35 feet from grade as you go into the main front door, or 35 feet max. Hopefully that answered those questions that Ms. McLeod had.
Okay. Next on the list is Charles and Pat Coley.
Coley.
Are the Coleys on the call?
She may have called in.
She's there, Kevin. She's 295-3556.
Okay.
Am I unmuted now?
Yeah, you're good, Miss Coley. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. I wasn't sure that you could hear me. A lot of what my concern has been talked about, particularly the headwaters of the Yadkin River, and the entry into Blowing Rock is so important. It really is. I have, when I was quite young, my father set up his business he was a physician in Lenore because of Blowing Rock. And during the 40s, we had a home on Buxton Road. And even after he sold that, he rented every year up here until he died in 1973. But my husband and I bought this house, 237 Green Hill Road, 50 years ago. And we are the ones that are having trouble with the rock wall, which is 100 years old. And the traffic is not particularly a problem with the people that come in and out as far as the occupants of the homes in the area. But there is other traffic that comes through here, which has been mentioned from other part of, say, Go Forth and up on top of Green Hill and off of Green Hill Road from above. And a lot of trucks. And this has not been, at one time they did have a sign at the bottom of the road before the 4-lane went in concerning the number of axles that actually a truck over those axles could not come up. That has not been put back. So anything is allowed if they can get around those first 2 curves. And that has really concerned us because we've noticed a big difference. Now, if the study was done in 2016, the last 4 years probably is 4 times what you were talking about in your study. That needs to be restudied because it is a real problem on Green Hill Road now. That this road is not very big, and any truck, even a box truck that comes up this road, it takes up 1.5 lanes. I've watched them from my window. I've watched them come up, and that one time, luckily, that somebody ran into our wall that destroyed the lower part of the wall on steps. Luckily, I was standing there and called the police, and they were able to, find the person. But this last time, when the upper wall, anyway, the traffic is a big problem on Green Hill Road. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Next will be Sandra Leslie. Sandra, are you on the call?
Yes, I see her. She's trying to unmute.
Sandra?
Can you unmute her?
Kevin?
I'm not sure if I can find, which one is it?
Sandra Leslie?
I was on the wrong, okay.
Second page.
Miss Leslie, can you see where you've got to unmute that? Well. No, I don't see her.
Might call back in.
Okay. We can come back to her if that's all right.
Okay. Next is
the Terry. If you want to go back to the Terrys, I think they're unmuted.
Yes, we just have a short question.
Okay.
We are not long-term residents, just recently purchased the house. And would just like to ask the developer what the estimated cost of the lots and the estimated value of the houses that would be built are.
Yes, sir. This is John Winkler. We hope the lots will be in the between 300 and 200,000, and the houses I anticipate being the lot and houses together $1 million homes. I anticipate that, but you know, the cost are maybe more than that now, the way the cost of materials are, but that's what we're hoping to have, something in that range. Yes, sir.
And you would set restrictions that would keep those values in that general area?
Well, yes, sir. We've set restrictions. It's up to the economy and the buyer to set the amounts, but we would have pretty stiff restrictions as far as the quality of the materials, the type materials, the type shingles, the type colors. Blowing Rock even has color restrictions. They have a colors you have to go by and have to be approved. So I think
not on houses.
I'm sorry.
Not on houses, we don't.
Oh, you don't? Okay, I thought you had trouble on that one up behind my hotel.
No.
Blue one or pink one or whatever it is.
You can put a pink house over there if anybody wants to.
But
We're not going to do that.
But for you to be economically viable, you can't have a inexpensive house built
No,
there.
sir, absolutely not. I can't sell inexpensive lots. No, they've got to bring a lot of money.
Okay, at this time, that's all the questions we had.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you,
all
Mark.
right, thanks. Thank you, Terry's. Let's see, next, do we want to try and go back to Sandra Leslie?
Yes, that's fine. If she's back on, is she on?
Kevin, she texted me her comments,
Okay,
if you would allow me.
sure.
She, of course, was concerned about the traffic, but she also believes that the seasonal residents should have input into this process, that there are too many people left out of this discussion.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. Thank you for that. Next on the list is Bob Green.
Rhonda Ann McDonald, I believe. Did you see that one?
Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. McDonald, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here now. Thank you. All of my concerns have been addressed by others, so I don't have any further comment at this time. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for staying tuned. All right. Next will be Bob Green.
Good afternoon. A lot of what I was curious about
has already been asked, but one thing that I have heard is that the development would meet the criteria to have a road to 321 from the bottom of that property. Even though I think Kevin says it's not feasible or not practical, whether it's the planning board or the city council has been fooled in the past. My question is, can we put a restriction in that will not allow that under any circumstances? If there's a road there, it's going to impact the area, and it is going to be very noisy with traffic starting up and stopping, and add another dangerous intersection to the area. So I'd like to know if we can put a restriction in that they cannot do that in the future or to start. That's my question.
Kevin?
Yes, there could be a condition that no access to 321 through the property.
Well, I, for one, would like to see that.
Anything else, Bob?
No, that'll do it.
Okay, hope you're feeling better.
I'm alive.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Next on the list is Susan Little.
I don't know if Susan was going to be able to join in. I sent it to her late, but I did send her all the information. I don't see it in here.
Okay. Deanie Addison.
Miss
Hello?
There you go.
I'm Denny Addison. Maiden name is Harper. I have a couple of concerns. Number one, the fact that seasonal and summer owners have not been able to give any kind of input on this is, I think, very unfortunate and needs to be rectified. Number two, for Blowing Rock to lose the opportunity to have a beautiful green gateway to the town, I think is a terrible loss. And I surely wish the developer would participate in some way in reconfiguring and setting aside land to create a beautiful green buffer as people come into the town. Otherwise, they're going to see a hillside, a vertical view of the backs of houses, a street, cars, and heaven knows what else is in there, depending on the restrictions that are placed on this subdivision, which appear to me to be minimal. And I think it's almost tragic, really, that this is not going to be planned for anything other than to subdivide and sell lots. And I would love to talk to the developer and see if there is some alternative to the plan that is before us tonight. Thank you very much.
All right, Danny, thank you very much for your comments. Last person is Dr. John Gould.
We have two. There's one at the bottom of that. Mr. Zhang as well.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, right. On the next page.
Dr. John Gall, I think, is he on? I don't see him. I don't see Dr. Gall on here, Pete.
Okay. Did somebody just come on?
No, that's I had to plug in. I was
okay.
About out of power.
Kevin, for some of these people that haven't been able to participate, can you reach out to them to get something in writing from them?
Who are you asking about?
Well, the Dr. Gould here. Let's see, Sandra Leslie.
Sandra, she shared her comments through Sandy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we still have one more. Mr. Zhang is on here.
Okay, well, let's get to,
Right.
let's go to him. Mr. Zhang, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak. And we are new residents in Blowing Rock, and we love the natural beauty of the area. And we would be very concerned about a few things. So first would be, like everyone already said, but I would say that I'm curious to know the experience and what the developer has done before in similar situations or similar type of development. And second is, if this project were to move forward, how long would it take? Because we will have extreme concerns about construction noise, construction traffic on Green Hill Road, because that section of road is very narrow, is really not ideal for large scale constructions. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. That's everybody that signed up. So the only person, Kevin, that we were not able to talk with was Sandra Leslie. Was that the only one?
Not directly, but again, we heard her comments through Sandy Campbell, but Dr. Gall he just emailed today.
Okay.
And he lives well on up the road.
Okay.
He's not within the
Pete,
boundary. I will.
and can I just interrupt here real quick? It's Lori Mulhern from the Green Park. If you would allow us to make a quick, I did not sign up. I can't, I won't if you don't. But I only found out about.
There are other people that, no, I don't think so, Lori, because there are several people on the meeting.
No worries.
Yeah. I mean, that's up to the board. But there are other people on this call that did not sign up that are participating in whatever the board wants to do, to be fair.
No worries. I totally understand.
I was going to address one of the questions, and then I think John could ask one of the questions, answer one of the questions too by Mr. Zhang. As far as the timing, if the project is approved, they have 2 years to begin. They have 2-year vested right to begin construction. If they don't, then the project expires, or the CUP expires for that subdivision. If they can get extensions to that if they are working to that end, 6-month extensions granted by the town council. But generally speaking, about 2 years to get started. And then if John wanted to answer anything about projects he's done in the past, or what he perceives his timing would be if approved.
Kevin, right now, if we do get approved, we plan to start immediately. But if we sell the lots, we can't project the build out. Some people may buy a lot and wait 10 years to build.
Right.
And so, but some of the projects I've done in Blowing Rock here lately is the Manor, the new hotel down on Main Street, and then the cottages that's going up. We're just completing on Main Street also, if that gives you an indication of what our things look like. I've done a lot of stuff in Boone, but you're probably not familiar with that. So I can only speak for the Blowing Rock projects I have. And also I have a home up on Rankin Drive. I paid, I think, $1.5 million for the land up there. And I spent a fortune remodeling that house. So you're welcome to go by and see it. It's right on the 17th hole. We have 6 acres there that we own.
Thank you, John. One more thing about the timing. When I said 2 years, 2 years is to complete the road project and to record the plat. It does not give them any time frame on building the houses. That can be years down the road as they sell, but 2 years to start the construction on the road. They don't have to complete it, but they have to begin construction on the road and then finish that once they've started.
Kevin, I think one more thing, can anybody hear me? One more thing I might say, I think these homes will be bought and lots more than likely by seasonal people. And there's a lot of young folks in the Charlotte, Atlanta area that right now maybe don't want to build a home, but maybe they'll have, at least they'll have something in Blowing Rock they can, when they retire, they can build their dream home in the mountains. That's what my anticipation is. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but I anticipate it'd be mostly seasonal people buying them.
Okay, I think that it's the list of people that had signed up. So I think I'll accept a motion to close this part of the hearing.
Hey, Kevin, this is Jason. I was just going to add a few things for some of the questions that came up during the Q&A with the public. If I could present some information that may help with that, or should I wait? I think if you're going to close the public hearing, I probably need to do it now.
Kevin, how do you want to?
That'd be fine before you close it off, before y'all go into discussion. Now, what y'all may do is have an opportunity to ask a question of staff in your deliberations or of the applicant. And I think that's perfectly fine. If you want to let Jason go ahead and give his answers, then you can close the public hearing if that sounds good.
Sure. Was that okay?
Yeah, go ahead, Jason.
Okay. So a couple of things have come up about the density about this project. Kevin, can you share my screen? Is that possible? If it's not, it's okay.
Hold on. Let me figure it out.
If not, it's no big deal. I'll just go over everything verbally. I just wanted to show some things.
I can't, hold on a minute. I can't do anything right now.
Okay, well, it's okay. So I'll just go over the things verbally. I just always like to show things. So
I want to do that.
The as far as density for this project goes, there's only one zoning class that's a lesser density than this, and that's RA. And RA is a minimum of 1 lot size per acre. R15 outside the watershed is what this is considered. And it allows up to 3 units per acre. So I just want to make that clear. That's what the code is. Our project is 6.448 acres for all 12 lots. That's a density of 1.8 dwelling units per acre. That's just a little bit more than half of what we could do. So we could do as many as 19 lots, and we're only doing 12. So I just wanted to point out that as far as the density goes, we're at 12 or 1.86 dwelling units per acre, and we're allowed up to 3.
Jason, I can share that screen.
Can you see what I've got up?
Wherever you want to go.
I'm not sure what you're seeing.
I've just got the aerial up right now.
Okay, well, that's fine. So that's one thing about density. Again, we're at 1.86 units per acre, and we're allowed up to 3. That's important because if you look in the DEQ definition of what low density projects are considered, and you can find this in NCAC 2H 15A, low density is considered anything that's no more than 24% built upon area or 2 dwelling units per acre. That's one of the first things to note is that even by NCDEQ standards, this project would be considered more than likely low density. So just a couple things to throw out there as far as the things about density goes. Again, I want to reiterate the traffic. We did not study Green Hill Road. The traffic engineer that we work with provided us with counts about what this property would generate. And I just want to remind everybody what those numbers were. During peak hours, you're expected to see approximately 1 trip every 4.5 minutes. That's an extra 13 trips per hour in total. That's just during the peak hours. In non-peak hours, you're looking at roughly one trip every 15 minutes or about 4 trips per hour. So just wanted to reiterate what the traffic is generated by this project. And then lastly, as far as stormwater goes, we are providing stormwater detention per what the town requires for subdivisions. So we're outside the watershed. We're at 1.86 dense dwelling units per acre instead of 3. And we're providing, again, what could this property be as far as another type of zoning? We're really between RA zoning and R1 zoning for our density. So as far as impact goes environmentally, it's definitely one of the lower uses that this property could be from a zoning standpoint. So hopefully that helps with density. And I just want to reiterate the items about traffic. 1 trip every 4.5 minutes during peak hours and 1 trip every 15 minutes during non-peak hours.
Kevin, this is John.
Hey, John.
I was going to tell the board, I went out this morning and took about 4 or 5 photos because I know the concern for the green area and what people would see as they come up 321. But as I took pictures this morning, really the only time you'll see this property is from the Gideon Ridge Road. That's where you see it most. It's mostly seen from the Gideon Ridge Road. From 321, it's when you get past the Blowing Rock sign, it's too late to look up there. You'd have to turn it about 120-degree angle to even look up there. But we've got 5 or 6 photos if you guys like to look at them. But I know it's just that's a matter of opinion, I reckon. But if you'd like to look at them, I'd be glad to share them. But if you don't, that's fine too. Just, I'm speaking to the board.
Kevin,
Yes.
do we want to look at the pictures?
I'm not sure how, be honest with you. I mean, y'all are familiar with.
We can send them to. We can do it.
Okay, here we go.
There's looking.
How'd you do that?
I just hijacked. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Thank you.
You see how the road is aiming up toward, it's aiming toward the 5th fairway, really toward the 5th tee. I mean, the 6th tee on the old 6th hole. And that's during the wintertime. It's going to be more exposed right now than it will be anytime. And we do plan to put a buffer up there to help cut down on traffic noise to our development. But we're not sure how and what type species we need to do that with. And here's right there at the sign. So you'd have to, and there's on the other side of the sign. And here's the view from, there's an old, I don't know what the heck, that's a big transformer there. That's a beautiful view there. And there's a view from right there at the intersection of Gideon Ridge and the old Blowing Rock, going out to the Blowing Rock. That's the intersection right there. And that's where you'll see the most part of the land. I think from the road, you're not going to really notice it that much. And this is looking back down from the 5th tee on number 5 tee. That's looking back down 321. You don't see any of the land there. And that is looking, that's looking up the road. That's looking up the road toward the sign, and the property's to the right there. I know the Gideon Ridge folks will see much, they'll be more bothered by the view of it than of the green area than anyone else, I think, in my opinion. But that's just for your information.
All right, John, thank you. Okay, so I think John Gould is on, Kevin.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just, some of my concerns have been addressed, I guess, but I'm concerned about the density and just concerned about the increased traffic. I'm getting a big echo. Are you getting echo too, or not?
Yes.
that any better at all, or?
That's better.
Green Hill Road is a curvy road. It's a narrow road. They're not very big setbacks from all of our houses. And I just am concerned about the wear and tear on the street with the increased traffic. I think the city spends a fair amount of time repairing damage that occurs because of the continual erosion issues, and that's added by or aggravated by heavy traffic. So I think there's going to be continued maintenance costs for the roads, and just worry about the increased traffic. Now I'm coming in late to this. I didn't hear just got off work. I didn't hear the earlier discussion. I understand what you're saying about the density, not as high as it could be, but I just think Green Hill Road is a neighborhood road. I know it functions as a thoroughfare for people going through, but it's not designed to carry heavy traffic. And that's probably my concern in terms of safety and noise and volume, wear and tear. The police have a big enough challenge themselves with people going too fast on the road. And I just think it's going to be adding to the problem. It's not 2 cents worth. I admit that I came in late to the meeting, so sorry if I haven't. I may be discussing some things that have already been discussed.
Okay, thank you, John, for your comments. Okay, I think we've now heard from everybody, so I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion.
Is there a motion?
Harrison.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Tammy, did you get that?
Harrison and Sam, correct?
That's correct. Okay, there's been a motion, first and second. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. So Kevin, how do you want to proceed now in opening this up for the board to discuss everything we've heard and comments on what we should do?
Well, Pete, I'm glad if the comments from the public generated any other discussion or any questions, be glad to pin those down now. And if not, I got the screen up if we need to walk through any comments or questions by the board. There were some things of consideration proposed as far as the one recommendation from staff was the 20-foot buffer on the western side adjoining the Oval Janes and Roger McGuire and Susan Little property. There was another thing that came up I thought could be addressed as a condition that Mr. Green had no access to 321. If you want to move on that would be a recommendation from the board as would be something to consider. That's what I gathered from the information the comments that were presented.
Okay, I think that from my own perspective, I think this is very enlightening, and I'd like to have each board member give us their thoughts so that by the time everybody is spoken, we can have a sense of direction. So, Mike Page, I'm going to start with you.
Speak to Kevin on Green Hill Road traffic in general. The development that's under consideration is near the intersection of Green Hill and 321. And one would expect that the egress and ingress would be primarily pressure on that section of the road rather than going toward the parkway. Certainly there would be some going the other way, but the bigger issue for people that I've talked to on Green Hill Road, and I think people who've been on the call tonight, is the overall traffic pressure. Kevin, is there a study underway by Town of Blowing Rock to meet some of the issues that have been raised?
No, there's not a study ongoing right now that is directly related to traffic volume. No. There's been some comments generated over the past year or even beyond about an additional location of a stop sign near Fairway 11, but I don't think that has traction. One of the comments that came out in a council meeting from going back to DOT records and checking with our police chief was a number of accidents on Green Hill. And they had 5 accidents going back 20 years or maybe more. Only one of those involved 2 cars. All the others were single car accidents. That's just to say DOT a lot of times reacts to, because DOT has maintenance on the upper end, the north end of the road, but they respond a lot of times to accidents. That's just how they do a lot of their assessment. But there's nothing that the town is doing right now to evaluate how many vehicle trips or anything like that. I don't even know if that answered your question at all, but
well, it does answer the question, and I hear from the folks who've spoken tonight and others as well that ongoing concerns about speeding on Green Hill Road, the traffic pressure, the Fairway 11, that sort of thing. And I don't think that's before us tonight as far as this project is concerned, but it's an ongoing concern that is not specific to this project, except to the extent that there would be additional traffic loads on the 321 side. On the comprehensive plan, one of the things that has been talked about over the years and is included in the plan is the reason for R15 zoning. You're more familiar than any of the rest of us on that, but R15 is designed to have a lower residential area density. It's the standard density for residential areas and designed to keep Blowing Rock as attractive as possible given the area that we have to build in. Any comments on that?
about 80% of the town's jurisdiction is R15 zoning. So we're heavy on residential. Another part of our jurisdiction was our ETJ, and that's RA out near Green Hill, or Green Hill near the Parkway, and that's farmland and some homes as well. So the vast majority of our property in town is residential, and yes, low density, and that's why we experience low density development. All of our high density development is situated along 321 or downtown. And this property, the majority of properties we deal with on development proposals are in the watershed, the water supply watershed. And actually, it's not what we drink, it's actually what Boone drinks. It's the water that flows to Boone and where they collect it. That's why it's in the watershed. This is not. This is in the upper reaches of the Yadkin River, and it's not in a water supply watershed. But it is low density. Outside the watershed, as Jason pointed out, it's allowed to be 15,000 square foot minimum lot size, 3 houses per acre. and they're at right at 2 per acre. If you get it, on the overall piece, it's a little bit less than that. 12 total lots on just over 6 acres.
One last comment. Peter Page and I have been in Blowing Rock since we were little people, and share with some of the people who have spoken tonight a concern that our town remain as beautiful as it can be in light of change. But as far as maintaining the green space, I think that that issue would have had to have been considered by some sort of conservation easement or something else that's not in the not in question here, because the property is for sale and it can be developed, and the developer has apparently presented a plan that's on all fours with the town requirements. So we're in a bind as far as being able to say it's not pretty as much as I would like to, because I remember the number 6 fairway when it was, the tee was over the road, and Peter and I and others caddied across there when the old bridge was there. So I share the concern that people have, but I'm also recognizing that we don't have the power to demand it be continued as green space. Thank you.
All right, Mike, thank you. Pete Pace.
If you take the traffic problems out of all the comments tonight, it was basically people that can see this development from across the street, and they don't want to see anything different than they can right now. I don't think that's, I'm in sympathy with them, but I don't believe that's a reason to halt going ahead with this development. And there's nothing that can really be done about the traffic except not put the development in there at all. That's about all I've got to say.
Okay.
It's a lot bigger place when you walk it than it is when you look at it on a map. It's not going to be that dense.
Okay. You, Joe?
Well, I walked it like Pete did just yesterday, and I think he's right. The density level is not going to be as obscene as people think it is. I mean, just a lot of space there. My only thought, and I don't know how this stuff works, is it seems like the whole world is about this short rental action. Is there an opportunity for that, or
no?
No. So then we're good. And what county is that? Is that Watauga or Caldwell?
It's about 95%. Well, Joe, can you see that line at the top of that goes at horizontal right there where the road intersects?
Yeah, I can.
That's the county line.
Gotcha.
Everything below is Caldwell.
I guess I'm good with the whole thing. They're not asking for anything. It seems like everything they're doing is within our means. I don't have an issue.
Okay, Joe, thank you. Sam?
Yeah, I just had 2 questions or thoughts or comments around this. I know Mr. Winkler mentioned that they would be putting in some sort of landscape tree barrier on the border with 321. Is there anything that we could recommend with approval that gets put in place to the plan? I'm just curious if there's anything there that we could do to help address some of those concerns. And I guess in a similar vein, so maybe that's a question for you, Kevin. I heard a few people mention the Yadkin River, and I see Mr. Miller on there that also spoke about it. I wasn't quite clear on the concern with the development and what issues that might bring about on the Yadkin River, but I would be interested in a similar vein. Is there any sort of recommendation there that we could ask of Mr. Winkler in order to help preserve the headwaters there in some way. So.
You want me to answer the very first part there, Sam?
Sure. Yeah.
You know, I think John mentioned that they want to look at putting some screening or some trees along probably the top of that slope before it goes down into that drainage basin. You can require some screening as a recommendation anyway from the planning board that they provide a buffer of some plantings down there, you know, some pines of some kind, or hemlocks or white pines, or something to provide a little bit along what would be lot 4, and at the top of the slope on lot 7. So that, I mean, you can do that. It would be on the lower side of lot 4 and 7. Did I answer that question, Sam?
Nothing about
Yeah, sorry, my AirPods messed up. Yeah, I was just thinking that might make it that might be a way to ensure that we keep some of the feel of green space and the view there as you're coming into town, and help with the overall characteristic there. And again, I know that Mr. Winkler mentioned that they were planning on doing that, and we'd have no reason to sort of believe otherwise, but it may be something that we as a board consider including as a recommendation if this is to move forward to council. So I don't know if anybody else on the board has a comment or thought around that.
I agree with Sam. That's a great idea. A vegetative buffer along 321 serves two purposes. It would help from the 321 side viewing the subdivision, and then from the people that build in the subdivision, it gives them a sound barrier from the traffic on 321.
Kevin?
Yes.
Jason Gaston put in the comments, Kevin, we will need NCDOT permission to put plantings inside the NCDOT permanent drainage easement.
That won't be a problem.
Okay.
Okay, Sam, was that all you had to say? Okay, thank you. Harrison, thank you for acting as the timekeeper. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Sam pretty much took the words right out of my mouth. I'd like to recommend a buffer along the 321 edge. I support the buffer along the property of the McGuires and Jane. And I would also like to include that condition for no access to 321.
I want to be clear what I was referring to. Putting anything along the edge of 321. I was talking about if you look at lot 7 and 4, kind of right.
Gonna be further up.
Yeah, where it's the hashed area, the permanent drainage, like right on the edge of that.
Right.
A little bit, instead of putting on the edge of 321, which if you put white pines, they'll be grown up so big that they're going to be out in the road. I don't think you have adequate room for that. And I think it needs to be further over, just as the toe of that slope, not toe of the slope, the top of the slope starts to go down. If you've walked the property, you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
It's really an area of just briars right now. And then if you plant some stuff along that especially white pines, you give a few years and they'll be grown up pretty substantially, and will help the homeowner and the view from really Gideon Ridge. I think what we saw in the photographs John provided, it's really a hard look to look up there on that hill when you're driving or when you're even riding. You're gonna have to look back. But from Gideon Ridge properties, I think they'll have more benefit of that than anything else.
I agree. That's all I have.
Okay, thanks, son. Wes?
Yeah, I've got a few items. The hashed area, that's the drainage easement everybody's talking about. Is that what I understand?
Right.
Okay, and that's where you might put some plantings or trees or whatever, if that's something. Yeah, I would want that to be a condition of this. But the first question I've got is to Kevin. Is there anything in his plan here that doesn't meet the existing codes?
No.
Okay. So there's nothing special about this. It's just a regular use permit.
Right.
Okay.
Anytime a subdivision is more than 3 lots or involves a new street or public road, it requires conditional use permit.
Gotcha. Okay. And this low pressure sewer system they're talking about, that does that have any above ground pumps or boxes or containers or anything like that?
I don't think so. It's most everything's underground. We've got several of those around town. If Jason's still on?
I am, and that is correct. Each of these houses will be equipped with their own individual grinder pump to facilitate that.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's see. And the underground tanks for stormwater retention, those are actually in that cul-de-sac at the end. Is that the way I understand this?
Yes.
Okay. So I think one of the concerns I'm hearing in general from the neighbors across the street is that they're going to be looking at the sides and or backs of houses. And I think that especially for these bottom 2 lots, you're going to basically be seeing maybe the back or the side of the house. And I think that buffer along the road there with tall trees, not just, small bushes, would go a long way to help with that. So I would not be able to vote for this unless that was actually part of this recommendation. So that's all I had.
Okay, Wes, thank you. Finally, Bill?
Sure. Well, I made my comment earlier in agreement with Sam, but just to add one other thing, there were several comments about open space, and just to clarify that the code only requires open space dedication if the subdivision is greater than 20 lots. So that's why there's no open space in this particular plan. Kevin, you want to add anything to that?
No, that's correct, Bill. We hadn't seen a subdivision of 20 lots, but one time since I've been here. It never was built. It never went all the way through the process.
Bill, anything else?
No, sir.
Okay, my personal thoughts are that I agree a lot with what Mike Page said. And I know that it was very enlightening to hear from all the people that spoke. They certainly had issues with the traffic on Green Hill and the open space, which Bill just alluded to. So I'm a bit conflicted by this, but we've got to come to a conclusion here. So I'll entertain a motion. If somebody wants to make a motion to move this forward or not, let's hear it.
I'll motion to move forward under the conditions we talked about. No access to 321 and the buffer along the lots 4 and 7 of some evergreen.
Okay, Harrison has made a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Would you consider the other additional buffer along the adjacent properties, the 20-foot undisturbed buffer?
Yes, I'd recommend
that one
going
too,
with the town's recommendation as well.
Okay.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. I'll take a vote. All those in favor signify by aye.
Peter, give an opportunity for discussion, please.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Mike. It's been a long day here. So is there any discussion?
Move the question.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Any opposed?
Yes, I said opposed. Okay, well, the ayes have it, so.
Hold on a minute, Pete. I want to make sure. Might it be, let's go down through a roll call and say who said what.
Okay. Mike Page.
Mike Page, aye.
Pete Pace.
Aye.
Joe Papa.
Aye.
Sam.
Aye.
Harrison.
Aye.
Wes Carter.
Aye.
Bill McCarta.
Aye.
And Pete Carini opposed. All right, gentlemen. Thank you for everybody's time. And Tammy, thank you for all your help. Kevin, thank you for all your donations and everything. So, Kevin, this will then be forwarded to the council, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We'll prepare to send notice out in the next couple of days and also re-advertise in the paper to follow the statutes. And we've got some corrected addresses and we should be hitting on all of them this time. I hope so.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I have one question before you do, please.
Okay.
Kevin, one of the things that's been brought up tonight is the lack of input from people who are not year-round residents. I know the Civic Association has a lot of the folks who are not year-round residents on their mailing list, so that what is comes before the planning board and council gets shared with them. Is there anything that we can do further to help those folks who are not here year-round have an opportunity to be heard?
Well, I can tell you that through this Zoom platform, we've been able to open up the opportunities a whole lot more than we ever have. People that are on this tonight are not necessarily here. I don't know, the property's posted. It also goes in the paper. I'm not sure. It is a notice that's in there. I'm not sure how many actually see that part, but that's what we're required to do. The mailed notice is there, and I'm sure there will be many that will hear about it through other venues. The planning board packet and agenda was posted on the website. It was available for public view. I think it was on there Tuesday. We just had a holiday, but we were able to get it up, and it will be the same for council. They'll be able to see that. When we get to council,
Civic Association people who have been on tonight, and David is on, so David can also help us with that. I think that concern is a real concern, but we do have some opportunities to get it out more broadly. And with that, I move to adjourn.
Okay.
It's a second.
I second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Way to be there.